Hi, everybody. Today we want to talk about the pipe, redirection, and the ampersand, some powerful tools that will help us process data here at the Linux command line. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take a look at how many text files are here in this directory, and I can go ahead and type ls star.txt. And so that shows me all of the text files here in this directory. And you'll notice that I typed this star here, right? This star is really a wildcard character that says match anything. What we're really asking here is list all of the files that end in .txt and start with anything, right? And so if I were to say something like ls.txt without the star, I'd be looking for only a file with this particular name. None of these files match that. All of them have something before the dot. So the wildcard is pretty useful. We can do some other things with the wildcard. We can go ahead and say, show me all of the files that start with CS3 and end with TXT, and we can see these three files right here. We can even go a little bit further, and we can say something like this. We can use two wildcards and say, show me anything that has an 8 in it, right? It starts with CS and ends with TXT. And so now we've found these two files. As you can see, there's an 8 right in there. Right? They both begin with CS, both end with TXT, and have an 8 inside of it. So we can use multiple wildcards to filter out these files. Very, very useful stuff. So let's look once again here at this list of text files. And one of the things that we might want to do is save our result from one of these commands. So I can do something like this. I can say, show me all the text files, but don't show it to the screen. Redirect that output to this file called files.txt. So this little arrow here is the redirect character. You can kind of think of it as pointing in the direction which the data is flowing. It's flowing from left to right, and we're going to store the data that we have in this file here that we've specified. So if we run this command, there's no output to the screen, but then if we cat files.txt, you can see that is the list of text files that we would have seen had we not redirected the output. So very, very useful, and this comes in handy all the time. So another useful command is the grep command. Grep allows us to search for a pattern in a file or a set of files. So I can say grep, and the pattern I'm looking for here, the pattern is 4, and the file I want to look in is 480.txt. And that shows me that yes, there is a 4 somewhere in that file. It shows me, in this case, it shows me the entire line that contains the pattern 4, right? I could do this with a wildcard character, show me all of the text files that contain a 4, and that shows me the line that contains that particular pattern. So it's the command grep, the pattern, and then the file or set of files. You'll see that when we have a set of files here, we get the prefix of the file name listed before the actual line from the file that contains the pattern we're interested in, and that's pretty helpful. So we can go ahead and use some more sophisticated things here. So what we want to look at right now is, oops, that was the wrong thing to type. Let's try that. So here we're looking at all the files that begin with CS, and we might even go and say, look at all the files that begin with CS3. There we go. And so what we've done here is that we've produced, some data right here using this command, right? So that data exists because that command produced that data. And so what we might want to do is we might want to further process that data that we produced. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. And the way that we're going to do that is with the pipe command. We're going to take the output of this command and pipe it as input to another command. And so in this case, we're going to go ahead and pipe it to grep. because we want to search for the pattern 1 in the output we produced up here, right? So the output here is now the input to this command. And so let's see what that's going to look like. And we can see right there that we found, CS310. And so we might notice that previously up here with grep, right, we specified the command, we did the pattern, and then we did the file or the pattern of files. Down here, when we're using the pipe, we specified the command grep and we specified the pattern, but we did not specify any files because we're reading all of our input from the pipe, which is getting it from this command. So because we're involved in this pipe down here, grep doesn't get a file name listed, right? All of the input is going to come from the left-hand side of that pipe. So pipes are super handy, allows us to chain together a lot of commands to do some pretty neat stuff. So let's try another couple of examples here. We're going to use the head command to display the first 3 lines in all the text files. And then we're going to see if we can find the pattern intro inside those 3 lines, right? And so we find it right there. Pretty helpful. That's pretty nice. So let's try something else though. Instead of looking for intro, let's look for CS, and then let's count how many times how many lines we see. So head is going to produce some output. Grep is going to look for the pattern CS in that output, and then the output of grep becomes the input for WC, right? So WC doesn't have any files associated with it either. And so we're going to see how many lines of output does grep produce after grep processes this output produced by head. And we can take a look at that, and that says 11. So 11 seems kind of high to me, so I'm not trusting that number. And so the question is, how do I debug a big chain of commands like this? Where do I start? And so for me, I always like to just go ahead and take a command off the right-hand side and see what I've got, right? And I start kind of backing up until I find a spot where I can understand why the output might be wrong. So if I run this, I get this output, and so that definitely looks like WC is working correctly. It counted 11 things. Not sure where this is coming from right now. And so I'm going to go ahead and take off this command and work backwards again. And now I can see, oh, I've got a header up here that's being added by the head command. And I don't want to include this CS in my output because it's not inside the file. So I've got to find some way for head to not produce that header. So I'm going to go back over here to my man page. And I'm going to kind of look through here a little bit. And then I notice right away, never print headers. That sounds like what we need. It's -Q. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to run this command, but I'm going to add -Q into it. And so this looks pretty good because now those headers have disappeared, right? And so I'm going to go back to my full command and I'm going to put a -Q in there. And now I'm down to 4, which seems pretty good because all I can see right away, right? Remember, files.txt has got the list of all these CS files in it. So there's 3 right there, and there's probably 1 up there, which makes a lot of sense. Okay, so again, the important thing to remember with these pipes is that the left side is going to produce some output. And the output here is going to become the input for the right-hand side of that pipe. And the right-hand side of the pipe isn't going to operate on any files, and you're not going to specify any files. You're going to exclusively read the output from the previous command. And then you can chain these together, as we can see here. This, which was previously the right-hand side, now becomes the left-hand side and passes its output over here to WC. And then WC just dumps it out to the screen. So very, very useful and very powerful. Okay, One other thing that we need to talk about here a little bit is that we used Genie previously to build a plain text file. And so I can just type Genie here at the command line and it's going to pop up for me, which is terrific. That's one of the nice things about Linux is that you can do a lot of the stuff right there at the command line. You can open applications if you need to. So I can come up here and I can type in something and I can save something. And then I can come over here and my terminal is kind of stuck, right? It's not really responding. And the problem is that Genie is still running and Genie is kind of taking control of this terminal right here. And so I'm going to come up here and I'm going to close Genie. And then all of a sudden this thing ran and that doesn't really exist. And so what we need to do here is if we have an application or if we have a command that's going to run for a long time, right? What we often want to do is use the ampersand to put that in the background so that the command or the application launches, but then we get the command prompt back and we can continue to type in other commands, right? So I can launch Genie up here, I can type up here, and I can come back down here and I can still run commands, right? So any of your applications that's going to jump up a window and you're going to have to work with, if you want to be able to type back there in the terminal while that window is active, this ampersand is going to help you out. So we can come up here and we can save this and we can do all kinds of things back and forth. The one thing that we have to be careful of if we launch Genie this way from inside the terminal, if I close this terminal, it sometimes will close Genie, sometimes not. It didn't in that case. It kind of surprised me. What I really should have done was this. Up right there. And if I close the Terminator window closes it. So you got to be careful. Exit didn't close it, but closing the Terminator window by itself did. So when you do launch things from the background, be careful. So we saw pipe, we saw redirect, we saw ampersand. So some of these these are some very important tools that we can use to process data here at the command line.